Hello everybody, it's Danny White with Primo RV Service Center in Sunset, Louisiana. I have an update or a sequel to my last video, and this is okay. Everybody's getting ready to go camping, everybody's plugging them in and getting ready to pack the house and all that so you can make your camping trips, but there are certain things that you need to do before you do those things, okay? So as I was in my last video, I talked about how before you plug your camper into power, things that you should do, okay? The things that you should do first and foremost. After you've inspected your tires, which was in the last video and on, and everything's good to go ahead and pull to your home or to a service center to have it inspected. But if you're going to do it at home or on site, you want to make sure that you plug in or put your water on. Put your city water on your camper, okay? Especially after the winter we just had here in South Louisiana, okay? A lot of people may have used antifreeze, some people didn't. We don't know what busted and what hasn't, okay? So before you go firing up and putting electricity and then putting your water on, and water and electricity don't mix, as we know, so you don't want to cause any further damage than possibly, you know, would be. So go ahead, put water to it, use a water flow restrictor, okay? What is a water flow pressure regulator or a water flow restrictor? It goes right at your city port on the outside of your camper. It's just a little copper adapter that goes in. It's basically a check valve that restricts the water flow. It only lets it get to about 15 to 20 psi coming in, okay? Because water pressure fluctuates, especially at campgrounds that have water pressure boosters on their lines, in order to produce more and more water flow for all the campers that are packed in there. But as these campers leave and at night when people turn off everything in their campers and they're not using the water, the water pressure rises. The next morning, a lot of people wake up with wet campers. Reason being, they're not using a flow restrictor or a pressure regulator, and they busted lines and had no idea, so now their campers are flooded. So make sure that you hook that up, put your city water connection on, come in, and you may have used antifreeze. If you did use antifreeze, go ahead and open up all of your faucets in your camper, okay? It'll be blowing a lot of water, then eventually it'll get to some pink stuff. That's your antifreeze coming out of your line and all that, and you want to do that until you basically see no more pink coming through. You also, while this is happening, want to be checking underneath your sinks and your bathrooms and your kitchens, any place that you have a faucet or anything like that, your shower heads. Look for anything that you know that there may be a water connection. Check those things for leaks, and check to make sure that nothing is busted. Check your toilet valve on the side of your toilet and all that. A lot of times the flush valves themselves, they will bust. They're prone for busting in the middle of the winter. So that's one of the things that you want to make sure that you're checking on, okay? After you don't see any more pink and your water flow is steady, you should be good. Now, there will be some small residue in your lines from the antifreeze. How do you clean it? Well, some people drop chlorine tabs. I don't recommend that. Here's what I would recommend. You take a cup of bleach to a gallon of water, and you go ahead and you pour it into your freshwater tank, your primitive tank. Put your water pump on. Again, come inside, open up all your faucets. You're gonna start smelling the bleachy smell water. Let that run. And then turn it all off, turn your water pump off. Don't use your city water, your freshwater tank any longer. At that point, you can go ahead and leave what's in there or drain it out if you'd like. If you do leave the little bleachy water that is still in there, it's not going to harm anything. Just remember that you got it in there. So it's probably best that you do drain it, because a lot of people won't remember, okay? So, but otherwise, you just come in here, open up all your faucets again, let it run, let that bleachy water get through all your pipes, including your showers and everything else. And make sure that your tanks are open while you're doing this. Don't flood your camper, okay? When you don't really smell the bleachy smell too much anymore, you've cleaned your lines, everything is done. Now, you may have to do this a couple times in order to get rid of that smell. But whatever little bit of residue was in there from the antifreeze is no longer, and you may have a little bit of a bleachy residue, but it's not going to be very bad, and you shouldn't smell it at all, okay? So that's the other thing. Now, the other thing that you want to do, now if you've done all that, you don't have any leaks, right? You don't have any leaks anywhere, go ahead and plug your camper in, get everything fired up. Make sure your AC is working, make sure your microwave comes on, and let's make sure that we got electricity going to the refrigerator, and that we're going to be able to light pilots on our stoves. And that leads us into checking our propane. Make sure your bottles, go ahead and open them. Come in here, purge your system. How do you purge your LP system? You go ahead, you turn one of your burners on, you hit your igniter. You keep, or in my case, I just don't like hitting an igniter, so I just grab a long lighter. And I'll hold a long lighter at my head right there, and as soon as it lights, I let it lit, and I'll light all three. And then I'll let that run for about 30 seconds to 45 seconds, and I can shut that off. Your LP system is now purged. You can come over here. You can switch your refrigerator, which it should be on auto, but just to make sure it's going to cool on gas in case you need it, go ahead and take it off of auto. It'll switch automatically to gas. Give it a couple of hours. It ain't going to cool in 20 minutes. It ain't going to cool in 2 hours. It's going to be more like 6 to 8 hours, and you can come in here and at least feel the back wall of your freezer, and you should have some frost and coolness going on. If it's still hot about 6 to 8 hours later, chances are you've got a restriction in flow going in, possibly from the back areas if you don't have screens on them. Wasps may nest and all that and block your LP line going into your refrigerator. You have to bring it to a service center to get it blown out and cleaned, okay? And then the last thing that you want to do is go through your smoke detectors in here. They're going to be located on your roof, or your ceiling, I should say. And Louisiana boys, everything's a roof. So anyway, you want to go in here, and you can take them down, or you can leave them up, and then you can pop them off. They open. There should be a battery sitting in there, and that's what we're doing pre in this camper here, so it will get a battery shortly. But you go ahead, swap that out. Ain't no sense taking risk. And you can also check your LP detectors if they take batteries as well. That's carbon monoxide. So if they do take batteries, go ahead and switch those out. At least you know now your smoke and your carbon monoxide is taken care of as well. You do those things, you should have some trouble-free camping, I promise you. Again, check your ACs, check your other appliances, make sure everything's working. But if you have no leaks, if you have no power issues, and everything's working, you're gonna have a lovely time at the campgrounds this summer, I promise. So for all your RV needs, where do you go? Go to Primo.